Dune, the battle for Arrakis.
Now that's what I call an intro. Spaceships, shredding guitars, and pixel stars. My kind of stuff. Dune, Battle for Arrakis, originally known as just Dune 2 on MS-DOS, was a port to the Sega Genesis in 1993. The game, being made by Westwood Studios, was based on David Lynch's movie titled Dune, which was based on Frank Herbert's science fiction novel, also titled Dune. The story, tying all of these things together, is based around a planet containing dunes. Dunes filled with spice. Now, I don't know what makes this spice stuff so valuable. I'm no Dune expert. But apparently, he who controls the spice controls the galaxy. Or universe. I don't know. You'll control a vast amount of space either way. So there's 3 interplanetary races vying for the Dune-covered planet. The Atreides, the Harkonnen, and the Ordos, or as I like to call them, the blue, red, and green teams. After choosing one of these 3, you'll be given a very light story about how you must destroy the other 2 and take control of Arrakis. The only differences I found between the plots is how they go about expressing their need for the planet. One side is good and doesn't want to hurt anyone, but will do what they must for their people. One side is evil and doesn't give a crap about anything but power. And one side is neutral, without conscience, and just wants spice for profit. Each side also has their own specific power weapon, but it doesn't really change much as far as gameplay, and each side also has their own specific sprite work for certain vehicles and buildings and such. Most are just color swaps though. So, as you can see, if you've had your eyes on screen this whole time, Dune 2 is an RTS game, and for those not hip to gamer talk, that means real-time strategy game. Now, I want to point out that I'm not personally a big fan of the genre, but I have played a bit in the past. Mostly Command & Conquer for PC and N64, but also a bit of Army Men RTS for GameCube. In doing research for this review, I was quite shocked to find out that this game basically built the foundation for what all future RTS games would model themselves after. That's a pretty big deal. And I'm not just talking about a couple of features here, I'm talking about a large bulk of it. And I'll just do a rundown of elements found in the RTS genre that first appeared here in this very game. The first being the most obvious, base and unit construction. You know, I'm kind of hard-pressed to think of a modern RTS without base and unit construction. You've got the technology tree, which is basically a system where you're given access to some buildings only after you've built other buildings in which the former is reliant upon. An easy example would be like, you need power plant buildings before your radar building can function, so you can't build one without first building the other. You've also got mobile units that can be deployed as buildings, and each of the factions have unique unit types and super weapons, and capturing enemy factories enables you to build their exclusive unit types for yourself. And of course, last but definitely not least, resource gathering to create funds for building your base and units. Now, there were of course RTS games before this one, but everything I just listed off, all of those core functions that are in pretty much all RTS games, first appeared here in Dune 2. So StarCraft, Warcraft, Command & Conquer, any other successful RTS game that you can think of, all owe their success to this very game. That's pretty amazing. And I know I've talked a lot about what this game did for the genre, but there are also some things that are exclusive to the Dune series here. If you've ever played Command & Conquer, you'd know that when you send troops on foot through resource fields, they'll take damage, right? Well, in Dune, there are these giant sandworms that can strike at any moment when you're moving across any sand. They'll not only swallow up your troops, but they'll go after your harvester vehicles, which can be devastating, especially if they're near full and about to head back to the refinery. It's such a cool element to add into a game like this, and extra cool if you've ever seen the movie. But the game isn't all bells and whistles, however. It has its problems. Yes, it is the most influential game in the real-time strategy world, and it stands as the archetypal game of the genre, but knowing that it was the first, you can probably guess that it is a bit archaic. Being a huge success and laying the foundation means that other titles took this game and built on it, making the ideas better. So as innovative as this game was, it still needed work. For example, in this game, you cannot click and drag a box around multiple units and move them all at once. They only allow you to move one single unit at a time. Now, if you've played anything after Command & Conquer, this can be very cumbersome. I literally had to build up units, move them one at a time to a spot near the enemy base, click each one, and then click on the building or whatever I wanted them to attack, one at a time. This, compounded with the fact that enemy units all moved around as freely as they wanted to and in unison, made things quite a slog, as I just felt debilitated in contrast to what I was going up against. Another problem I noticed is that the computer's AI wasn't very smart. It wouldn't flank, like, ever. It would mostly just attack the same side of my base over and over again, even though I became aware of it, and would build an absurd amount of turrets there. They just keep attacking that same spot regardless, repeatedly, getting slaughtered by my defenses. Those problems aside though, I feel like Dune 2 doesn't really suffer from much else. It's a pretty solid game and definitely feels like a spiritual predecessor to the Command & Conquer series. And all around, I pretty much had fun with this game. Though not every feature was unique, its specific combination of the fog of war, mouse-based military micromanagement, and an economic model of resource gathering and base building became the hallmark of the RTS genre. This alone makes it worth checking out, even if the game is a little buggy. It's still addictive and surprisingly easy to learn for a strategy game. So, go grab a copy and witness for yourself the birth of a genre.